Hi everyone, this is Libby and this is Taking Authority Part 10. So last week we looked at the traits of Jezebel and Delilah. We focused mainly on Delilah. We had reviewed Jezebel previously because these will be the two prevalent spirits in the last days. They are strongman spirits, and we've discussed what a strongman spirit is. The Jezebel and Delilah spirits, they're very seductive, very flamboyant, and they can seduce individuals by the lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and pride of life. And that can be individually or that can be corporately, as we see taking place all across the world. If the bait is taken, then people may have received a strong man's spirit, whether knowingly or unknowingly. Especially today with all these transformational events and practices. And remember that term, transformational events. Just if you get a chance, just do a search on those two words, transformational events, and see what comes up. Just like Tomorrowland, those events, or Burning Man that we just previously reviewed, the New Age movement, that's just repackaged with new terms. All that is satanic worship and contacting familiar spirits, and it's Baal worship, and it's just repackaged in a new light, if you will. Sports mania. Pornography, drugs, ecumenical movements, the list is sadly endless, and those are just touching a few of the ways that Jezebel and Delilah spirits can come into our homes and can affect any age group in our family. And there will be an extremely high need for believers to know how to recognize and help these individuals that have had encounters with the Jezebel and Delilah spirits, or for that fact, any unclean spirit or strong man spirit. Though at times there can be medical reasons associated with various presenting symptoms, the probability of there also being some type of demonic oppression or stronghold are highly probable. Because simply that is the day and age we live in. And people are delving into things that they're not even aware what's behind them. There's several ways that have been disguised, even through practicing yoga, that these spirits can enter into a person. So we just have to be mindful of that. And many times the people will present with symptoms that concerns them. Some even may hear voices, but what they usually encounter in the medical world is being given some type of prescription, some type of medication, which doesn't take care of the core issue at all. YHWH has given us the authority over the power of the enemy to trample on snakes and scorpions. Snakes and scorpions are simply the rulers of darkness and spiritual wickedness. These are demonic spirits. We must get this. We really must get this, or there will be many left in bondage and others in such captivity that they cannot even receive the gospel message. And this is sweeping the world at a rapid pace. The family has been attacked for quite some time. The devastation is obvious. The brokenness in families is obvious. And just the fact that people are grasping for anything, and they're turning to things that, are flamboyant, like Tomorrowland concerts and New Age lingo, and getting sucked into that. They're following the lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, and pride of life. So this topic is really huge for us to get. If it wasn't, Yahweh wouldn't have me spend this much time researching and studying these things out. So we are learning and growing in this area together, because there is a huge lack of knowledge and teaching on this topic in the church. And that should not be, because spiritual warfare exists from Genesis to the end of Revelation. I mean, what part of the Bible does not speak of spiritual warfare? But it's a topic that Satan does not want you to know, nor does he want you to understand it, nor does he want you to have the ability to help others to set them free, or refer them to a resource that could help them work through being set free. That's the last thing Satan wants. And we have to remember this. He is a defeated foe. And the only authority that he has is what you give him. Yahweh has been victorious. He has won the war. He has given us the kingdom. He has given us authority. What are we doing with it? Because this world is screaming for people that know Yahweh to help them, because they are getting deeper and deeper into darkness, and they turn to the present day church and they don't find answers. They turn to the medical field and they don't find answers. And they're afraid to tell people, I hear voices, because they don't want to be labeled crazy and they don't want to be put on drugs. So with that brief introduction, let's go into prayer and let's continue. Dear Yahweh, we just come to you with thanksgiving and praise for all that you have provided us, and the fact that your son Yahushua HaMashiach has declared victory over our enemy, and that what you have given us authority to do is to go into the world and teach them all that you have commanded us, and baptize them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Ruach HaKodesh. And you have told us, you will be with us. You will go with us. And so we walk in that power of your resurrection, the power that you have given us over the enemy. Not to be deceived, but to put on our full armor of Yahweh, and to stand firmly, and to pray and to praise you without ceasing. Now, take over this lesson. Teach us, Yahweh, what you want us to know. Let those listening understand what you're trying to reveal to their heart at this moment in time. And we give you all praise and glory, and we bind any satanic interference from our studies or from understanding what you would have us grasp from this lesson. In the name of Yahushua HaMashiach, I pray. Amen. In Isaiah 14:16, it reads, "Those who see you stare at you and ponder over you, saying, 'Is this the man who made the earth tremble, who shook reigns, or who shook kingdoms, who made the world as a wilderness and destroyed its cities, who would not open the house of his prisoners?' All the sovereigns of the Gentiles, all of them, were laid in esteem, everyone in his own house. But you have been thrown from your grave like an abominable branch, like the garment of those who are slain, thrust through with a sword, who go down to the stones of the pit like a trampled corpse. You are not joined with them in burial, for you have destroyed your land and slain your people. Let the seed of evildoers never be mentioned. So that is what Hasatan does in verse 20. It says, for you, Hasatan, and that's what who the verse is speaking to, have destroyed your land and slain your people. He may come and present himself as an angel of light in many shapes and forms, and through the use of people's flesh and events. But make no mistake, if you're involved in that his ultimate goal will be to slay you, will be to kill you, because he comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But Yahweh has come that we may have life and have it more abundantly, through his Son, Yahushua HaMashiach. The stratagems of Satan has always been to kill the royal righteous seed. We see, starting in Genesis, like I said, the corruption of Adam's line. That has been his goal, to destroy the royal priesthood. We read about that in Genesis 4 and Genesis 6. Abraham's seed has always been a definite target to destroy the promise that was promised us, and to destroy us, the royal priesthood. You see this also in Genesis 12 and in Genesis 20. Famine, you see in Genesis 50. And oh yes, always focus on controlling food, water, and nowadays we battle with the chemtrails and the weather events. And not only that, recently Florida and Houston they've been sprayed for the Zika virus. So that is causing a lot of respiratory distress. And the Zika virus is not what it's being made out to be. Be not deceived. Destruction of the male line. The midwives, then all the people were instructed to throw the male children into the river in Exodus 1. So the midwives circumvented the decree, but then when they circumvented it, then he said, have all the people throw the male children into the river. So again, Satan was after the royal seed. And Pharaoh's pursuit, that's a constant. The royal seed is constantly pursued by Hasatan, because that's the spirit behind it, whether it's Hasatan himself or some other demonic spirit. So that was read about in Exodus 14. The populating of Canaan. So there's a persistent gene pool problem, a DNA corruption of the DNA human genome. And we see that in Genesis 15. And we see that today with splicing of DNA and manipulating DNA in a petri dish. And again, always against David's line. And again, this was again against the royal lineage in 1 Samuel 30 and in 2 Samuel 7. Attacks on David's line, the Melchizedek line. We see Jehoram kills his brothers except for one. So the Messianic line continues. We read about that in 2 Chronicles 21. Arabians slew all but Ahaziah's, Jehoram's youngest son in 2 Chronicles 22. Athaliah kills all but Joash, and we read about that in 2 Chronicles 22, but also it's cross-referenced in 2 Kings 9. And it says, and it came to pass that when Jehu was executing judgment upon the house of Ahab, and found the princes of Judah and the sons of the brethren of Ahaziah that ministered to Ahaziah, he slew them, and he sought Ahaziah And they caught him, for he was hid in Samaria, and brought him to Jehu. And when they had slain him, they buried him, because, said they, he is the son of Jehoshaphat, who sought the Lord YHWH with all his heart. So the house of Ahaziah had no power to keep still the kingdom. But when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the seed royal of the house of Judah. So it's clear, it's so very clear of the spiritual warfare and the spiritual attacks that transfer from the spirit realm into the physical realm. Because not only at times do we have spiritual warfare, it crosses over into physical warfare. But Jehoshabeath, the daughter of the king, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him from among the king's sons that were slain, and put him and his nurse in a bedchamber. So Ahaziah hid him from Athaliah, so that she slew him not. I think I skipped a whole sentence, so I'm sorry. So Jehoshabeath, the daughter of King Jehoram, the daughter of Yehodah, the priest, for she was a sister of Ahaziah, hid him from Athaliah, so that she slew him not. And he was with them, hid in the house of YHWH 6 years, and Athaliah reigned over the land. So again, Joash was preserved. It always seems like one is preserved, and that is by Yahweh's divine hand. And we know Hezekiah prays, and Yahweh smotes the Assyrians, spares Judah for my servant David's sake, he says in Isaiah 36 through 38. We recently read about Haman's attempts in the book of Esther, and that is recorded in Esther 3. And then it goes on into the New Testament stratagems of Satan, continues on in the New Testament. Joseph's fear for Mary, potentially fatal under the book of the law, which they were born during that time period that they were under the book of the law in Matthew 1. We see Herod's attempts to kill the male children again, 2 years old and under, in Matthew 2. And at Nazareth tries to throw Yahusha off a cliff in Luke 4. The 2 storms on the sea, Yahusha rebukes, and they were probably not natural storms, because it's the fallen angels that usually you hear the word rebukes. And we usually ask Yahweh to rebuke the fallen angels according to his will, because he has given us authority over the demonic powers, not necessarily the fallen angels. So we went over that in earlier teachings. So we have the principalities and the powers discussed in Ephesians 6. Those are fallen angels. And Yahweh has given us power over the rulers of darkness and the spiritual wickedness in heavenly places. So those are the snakes and scorpions that Yahweh has given us authority over. So those storms could have very well been supernatural storms caused by fallen angels, for which Hasatan is one. He is over the fallen angels. So it was interesting that I believe Chuck Missler brought that point out, that Yahusha rebuked the storm. So we read about that in Mark 4 and Luke 8. And we know about the tree of crucifixion. Of course, that was Hasatan's ultimate attack, and he thought he was winning by crucifying Yahusha, but Yahweh had the greater plan. And also, as we speak, we see in Revelation 12, he's still not through. And the timing is impeccable to really be even teaching this lesson, with it being September and everybody looking toward the heavenlies for the sign of the woman clothed in the sun with the moon at her feet and the 12 stars. And there's normally 9 stars, and 3 incoming planets will align to make the 12. So it's very interesting. Throughout God's Word, there's biblical astronomy. I mean, it's in almost every aspect of His Word, not to be confused with astrology. Yahweh created the stars in the heaven and the heavenlies. So, and He has referenced things changing in the heavenly realms when we look up. So we should be mindful, and we should definitely be looking up during this day and age. And we know Satan's titles. The prince of this world in John 12:31, the prince of the power of the air. You know, just look at our present day media and music, etc. It's full of Hasatan. And sadly, it's even creeping into the Christian music. So we have to be really aware from all angles of any type of music. Ephesians 2:2, it talks about the title, the prince of the power of the air. And he's also referred to as head of the world rulers of darkness in Ephesians 6:12, and the god of this age in 2 Corinthians 4:4. So, which temple man do you belong to? I listened to a recent presentation about the temple man that was researched down here by Tony Badillo at templesecrets.info, and I'll share that link. I'm mainly just using the diagram for a visual effect. So, you know, I wanted to ask all of us, you know, which temple man do you belong to? Which temple man does this world belong to? Which temple man does the traditional church belong to? Because there is a great mixing, like in the feet, of iron and clay. And Yahweh is not a God of mixing. Which temple man does the majority of men belong to? Those over the household that should be under Yahweh. When there's a break in the hierarchy of the household, the wife and the women suffer, the children, the sons and daughters suffer, the whole household suffers. Health and wholeness of the family and the nation breaks down. So haven't we seen Hasatan attack the family and the nation that way? And there's been a great attack on the white male, just as in the previous years that we just discussed. So you can either worship Baal and the worldly Babylonian system, or we worship Yahweh and become living stones making up His temple, because we are the temple. If there is a third temple that is going to be built, that is man-driven. His word says we are the temple. And we need to make sure that our outer courts are clean, and that we have invited His Ruach HaKodesh to come in and live in us and through us. And that is our protection. That is who we worship. We worship Yahweh. And we should not have any doings with this worldly system. And we definitely don't need to adapt all these pagan holidays and call them worshiping Yahweh, because Yahweh has nothing to do with those. Yahweh's feast days, his Moedims, are listed in Leviticus 23, and those are the ones we should follow. So, like I shared, if you want to watch this new series that Torah to the Tribes is starting about Temple Man, it's very interesting. Oops. So, I'll leave this link in the description section beneath this video, and you can watch this one. It just got started, so you can watch this one, and then next Shabbat will be part 2. So the question is, which mountain do we camp on? Are we camping on Mount Gerizim of blessing or Mount Ebal of cursing? We read in Joshua 24:14. And now, fear Yahweh, serve him in perfection and in truth, and put away the mighty ones which your fathers served beyond the river and in Egypt, and serve Yahweh. And if it seems evil in your eyes to serve Yahweh, choose for yourself this day whom you are going to serve, whether the mighty ones which your fathers served that were beyond the river, or the mighty ones of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. But I and my house, we serve Yahweh. And the people answered and said, Far be it from us to forsake Yahweh to serve other mighty ones. Well, we really know the outcome of that eventually. They did end up serving the mighty ones. Much like us today. There's been a great deception, and sadly, there definitely needs to be a great awakening, because there's no middle mountain here. It's either serve Yahweh or serve Hasatan. Those are the two camps. And we need to be set apart, clearly set apart, who we serve. Joshua was leading Israel into battle. The last thing a soldier needs is to be double-minded. In 1 Kings 18:21, it reads, And Elijah came to all the people and said, How long would you keep hopping between two opinions? If Yahweh is Elohim, follow him, and if Baal, follow him. But the people answered him not a word. So we have talked about the armor of Yahweh a lot in this series, and I will continue to talk about it because it's a huge topic, and I think it's one that we have not embraced the way we should have. So my question to you is, have you put on the full armor of Yahweh that we read about in Ephesians 6? And do you put it on in the correct order? Personally, I didn't realize there was an exact order, and there is. So, I'm continuing to learn things about our armor. And if you've answered yes, that you do have the full armor of Yahweh, just take a few moments, take a few seconds, and recite each piece and their function in your head. Just take a few seconds. Just go over it in your head. So how did you do? Keep in mind, we will review the armor of Yahweh in greater detail next session. So this would be a good study to do between now and then, because you may discover things that I don't share. And I would value your input anytime on any of these videos, insights that you would like me to know that maybe I didn't mention. Or if there's something I misspeak on, I welcome you to correct me. So keep that in mind. Next session, we will focus more on the armor and discover some new things. So if we put on the full armor of YHWH, the question we need to ask ourselves, when was the last time we did maintenance on our armor of protection? For example, since our last battle, have we plugged any holes in our shield of faith from those last fiery darts, if you will? Did our helmet of salvation, or sometimes referred to as the helmet of deliverance, did it do its job to protect our mind from what our eyes, ears, nose, mouth took in, or what our mouth let out? Have we anointed rust spots with oil? Have we sharpened that two-edged sword? And if so, how do we do that? May I suggest to those of us that have put on the full armor of YHWH that we must still cross-check and verify each aspect of the armor for damages and do daily maintenance, but also as warriors, we are to practice to develop muscle memory. My background was emergency nursing. Every shift, we checked the defibrillators. We checked all of our supplies. We checked, all the medications to make sure that on the crash cart they were current, not out of date. We checked our supplies. We designated time between the shifts that the oncoming shifts could do all of these things. Because that person coming through that door many times was fighting for their very life. If we weren't prepared, if we didn't think ahead of what we would need based on the ambulance report of the incoming patient, if we didn't already have the laboratory on standby outside the room to draw the blood and also already have called x-ray, then that would threaten whether that person would possibly live or die. So that's the level we need to think about when we have our armor on. And it's something that we have to keep in our minds every day to make sure it's all that it needs to be and it's all functioning correctly, and that we have practice. Because you don't learn advanced life support on the day that someone comes through that door. You've already been ACLS certified. And you have practiced. So to be in battle and not be sure of the condition or how to use our armor, our sword, and our prayer and praise covering, that would not be wise, of course. And based on the condition of the world all around us, isn't it likely we have taken our armor of YHWH for granted, or we have grossly misunderstood its importance? Because not only are individuals attacked, this nation has been attacked. This nation has been attacked. And many nations around the world have been attacked. So have we put on our full armor of YHWH thinking, well, I've got it on, I'm covered, now YHWH is to do all the work? are we still praying to him to fix this or that when he has already done his part and has given us the authority to heal, to bind and loose, to take dominion, and how to use his name? We have to think through those things, because many times people are praying to Yahweh and he's probably thinking, why are you praying to me? I've already given you that authority. You can take care of that. So we need to learn how to use what he's given us. So when we look at ourselves in the morning, when we look in the mirror, who do we see? What is our attire? His word tells us to be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And we need to see ourselves fully clothed in his authority, in his righteousness. And that's the visual on this side we should see ourselves in. And if we see ourselves as everyday people, when we look in the mirror, then we do not have our full armor on, because we should be checking every day that everything is in its proper place and that we have everything taken care of. Romans 12:2, and do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, so that you prove what is that good and well-pleasing and perfect desire of Elohim. Now, it's so interesting, the word transformed here, because the world has usurped that term, and that is why they are pushing all these transformational events, like Tomorrowland, like Burning Man, and so forth. New Age, out the gazoo. I mean, they are pushing, come join us and be transformed. There are so many people falling for that. There's so many people in need for our help. So, are we going to be there to be able to help them? Are we going to be able to recognize those that need help? Are we going to be sensitive to those needs all around us? Those that are wanting out of New Age, thinking it wasn't as serious as it is. Thinking they just wanted to meditate and relax. Hogwash. Purely hogwash. That's satanic worship. That's contacting spirit guides. That means demons. Okay? And it's not pretty. It's not light transforming. It's lethal. So we really need to make sure we know who we are in Yahweh, and that we carry out our purpose that he has given us, especially in this day and age, because this is a pivotal time in biblical history, and we need to be up for the task. So like I shared, many are being suckered into these types of transformational events. This is just one website I wanted to share with all of you. It's called Transformational Shift Life. Oh boy. Okay, what's it about? Transformational Shift Events is organized and led by me, Tolek of AndromedaCouncil.com, joined by Adona of StarAncestry.com, and a variety of gifted and passionate, like-minded people who are experiencing consistent, evocative, new levels of higher dimensional contact and knowledge, which they wish to continue to share with the people of this planet. The information and knowledge gained is literally out of this world. It sure is, and absolutely enlightening. Yeah, my foot. If you are in search of consciousness-raising, informative, truth-seeking and telling, heart-filling, life-celebrating experiences, including live music and or a concert as part of our events, you've come to the right place. And therefore, you'll want to attend and enjoy our various physical, not webinar, conferences, special events, seminars, and workshops. Moreover, they are priced to be affordable. I hope you You'll join us as many times as you wish to. Tolek. So here we go. It's inspiring. It's enlightening. It's noble. It's compassionate. It's transformative. Leaders, dedicated leaders. Find out the true nature of your being. 4D and 5D higher dimensional life. Your role on this planet. Yeah. Run from such. If people get caught up in that, you're getting caught up into Satan's snare. And he is laughing at you to no end. Or how about this place? This is a Center for Transformational Presence. Alan Seal, founder and director. And he's just so sweet looking. Thanks so much for stopping in to learn more about the Center for Transformational Presence and its leaders, as well as about our certified, so they're certified, that means they're organized, certified transformational presence coaches and program partners. We hope to meet you in one of our programs soon and look forward to getting to know you. We have the Center for Transformational Presence, Transformational Presence Community Manifesto. Alan Seal is founder and chief transformation catalyst. Trace Hobson, chief OAM, organizational alchemist and mystic. Kim Adams, chief action officer. They have a press kit and they have certified transformational presence coaches. Wow. Now, these individuals that have bought into this lie, I'm not making fun of them. They have been fooled by Satan. They have been deceived. They are deceived, lost individuals, and we should pray for them. But at the same time, we should not be deceived. And those that we may know that have stepped into this realm, we need to witness to them and pray first to bind any unclean demonic spirit from preventing them from hearing the gospel message and hearing the errors of their ways and opening their heart to receive the truth. So there are so many people out there that are buying into this, and even the traditional churches it's going into the church. So the traditional church is conforming to the world instead of transforming the world like they should be doing. So when there's a void, guess who steps in? And just look at his face. You're not going to be able to recognize someone as being driven by Hasatan. What a trusting average Joe face, right? Wrong. We always have to do the fruit test. The Bible tells us we will know them by their fruit, not by their face. Because as we've shared and as we know, I know I'm preaching to the choir, that Hasatan can present himself as an angel of light. Many are being suckered in. Look at this. This is another website, Transformational Process, the upcoming events. We have Canada, we have Switzerland. This is all over and across the world. And so they have all of these events taking place constantly every year. And then we have this transformational process, the power of love. You know, they're pushing love, 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 and no discernment. And to not have discernment with love, that's going to open up the next generation for devastation. And it's already taking place. And it has here energy healing for body, mind, and soul. Whenever you hear energy and frequency healings and all of these things, beware. What does it say they can do? Awakening our spirits, opening our hearts, living in the heart. Why? We don't want to live in the heart. The heart is deceptive above all else. No, we are to have the mind of Christ. Our will should be the will of Yahweh, and our emotions should follow the fruit of the Spirit, should display the fruit of the Spirit. Oh, we're going to have transforming our global consciousness here. Right. To help change your life to be more positive in many ways. And check out this other ad they had on their website. Again, usurping Yahweh's name. He is the great I am. So, Hasatan is a counterfeit. And he's just usurping attributes of Yahweh. So in this little ad, it says, I am the light of the world. Let them come to the light. But the light they're going to go to is Hasatan transformed into an angel of light. Not the true light. He is ultimate darkness and ultimate deceit. He is a liar and the father of lies. Again, promoting energy healing for body, mind, and soul. Again, energy healing for body, mind, and soul. Transformational process. And then they even quote a Bible verse. We will not all sleep, but we will all be changed in a flash. They will have a form of godliness, but deny the power thereof, of the true, omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent Yahweh. This is a great deception, and sadly, the next generation coming up is being greatly deceived. And sadly, my generation and many people in my generation, I mean, this affects all generations. And there's much work to be done. And we need to ready ourselves, because at some point in time, these people will need our help, and we will need to know how to help them. We need to make sure that we are ready to receive these patients, if you will, like in an emergency department. We will need to be ready to receive them and to be able to help them and not fear the demonic entities that they're dealing with, and know how to cast them out and how to bind them, know how to bind and dethrone strongman spirits, and not to communicate with them, just to tell them to go where Yahweh has made a place for them. And I just cannot stress enough that Yahweh is telling us to prepare. He's telling us to prepare. Yes, he has won the war, but there will be many battles to be fought through the power and authority that he has given us. But if we don't know how to use that power and authority, there will be many souls that are lost or go without help because we haven't prepared. Another ad on their website even shows a picture of Jesus, or who they call Jesus. And And doesn't that look heavenly? It's a great deception. Great, great, great deception. That Yahweh's word said even the very elect could be deceived. So, like I said, just take some time and search the keywords transformational events. See what you find. Unless we have anointed eyes, we cannot see the realness of the spiritual realm, which is more real than our physical realm. We focus on this physical realm because we see, touch, feel, hear, all those things, all of our senses. We interact with this physical realm, but know that the spiritual realm is even more real. So in Revelation 3:18 we read, I advise you to buy from me gold refined in the fire so that you become rich, and white garments so that you become dressed, so that the shame of your nakedness might not be shown, and anoint your eyes with ointment so that you see. And in 2 Kings 6:17, and Elisha prayed and said, Yahweh, I pray, open his eyes and let him see. And Yahweh opened the eyes of the young man, and he looked and saw the mountain covered with horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. We must have eyes that see. Our prayer should be, Yahweh, anoint my eyes so that I may see beyond this physical realm. Let me see the brokenhearted, those in captivity, those hearing voices, those yearning for help, and let me know how to help them. Teach me, Yahweh. Teach me. I want to review Ziklag. It has numerous lessons for us to glean from this adventure of David. And it actually shows a time in David's life when he was rather slothful. And honestly, I believe we have become rather slothful. In 1 Samuel 27:1, we see David making a decision. He has been fleeing from King Saul for his very life. We read in 1 Samuel 27, verse 1, and David said in his heart, and David said in his heart, now I shall perish by the hand of Saul someday. There is not better for me than to escape to the land of Philistines. Then Saul shall give up searching for me any longer in any part of Israel, and I shall escape out of his hand. So David rose up and passed over with 600 men who were with him to Achish, son of Maoch, sovereign of Gath. And David dwelt with Achish at Gath, he and his men, each man with his household. David with his 2 wives, Ahinoam the Jezreelitess, and Abigail the Carmelitess, Nabal's widow. So David settles with his household and 2 wives in Ziklag. So was this thought from Yahweh? Remember we talked about take every thought captive. Are we listening to Radio Hasatan or Radio Yahweh, or is it our own thought? And if it's not Yahweh's thought, then we need to rethink it. We need to pray and make sure it comes from Yahweh. So no, this wasn't from Yahweh. David said it in his heart. It very well could have been his own thought. It could have been influenced by Hasatan, but from what we see in the scripture, we'd just assume, let's just assume possibly that it was just strictly David's thought. But it was clearly not from Yahweh. So Ziklag is given to David by Achish. So in 1 Samuel 27, we read, "And it was reported to Saul that David had fled to Gath, so he sought him no more." So in a way, it kind of worked. I mean, his logic kind of worked. "And David said to Achish, 'If I have found favor in your eyes, let them give me a place in some town in the country to dwell there, for why should your servant dwell in the royal city with you?' And Achish gave him Ziklag that day. That is why Ziklag has belonged to the sovereigns of Judah to this day." So then, in verse 8, we read about David conquering the Geshurites, the Gizurites, and the Amalekites. Yet, when relayed to Achish, he said he went against the south of Judah, Yehuda, or against the south of Yeramalites, or against the south of the Canaanites. Thus, Achish trusted that David had made himself a stench to the people of Israel and had become his servant, if you will, forever. So he didn't relay these names of who he conquered. He phrased it a little bit differently. So was he trying to mislead Achish in a way? I think so, possibly. So then we will look at when Ziklag, the Amalekites, rampage that city, that town he was given. So now if we jump over to 1 Samuel 29, we read about the Philistines gathering to go against Israel. But one of the princes of the Philistines feared if David went with them, his loyalty could change and he would become their adversary in the battle in verse 4. I think that was a pretty logical assumption. So even though David questioned that, Achish informs David to return to Ziklag, and so David does return to Ziklag. And what does he find? 1 Samuel 30, verse 1. "And it came to be when David and his men came to Ziklag on the third day that the Amalekites had invaded the south and Ziklag and smote Ziklag and burned it with fire." So we had read earlier that David in the past had attacked the Amalekites and conquered them, but apparently there were still some left around. So, "And they took captive the women and those who were there from small to great. They did not kill anyone, but they led them away and went their way." So does this apply today? While the men are away, have our families and households been ravaged? And you might say, well, what do you mean the men are away? Away from Yahweh. The men are supposed to be under Yahweh. The men, in many instances, in the majority, the men are away. You might find them at the football game. You might find them here, there, and everywhere. But are they under Yahweh? Because if they're not under Yahweh, the women and those who were there, small and great, will be led away. And I think that's what we see today, that the lack of reverence for the one true living God has devastated our land and lands across the world. "And David and his men came to the city and saw it burned with fire, and their wives and their sons and their daughters had been taken captive." Has the enemy taken sons and daughters captive these days? I say so, they have. Have they taken wives captive these days? Yes. And husbands and sons, and they've been taken captive. Defending one's household is a 24/7 thing. The lust of the eyes, the lust of the flesh, and the pride of life are the enemy's bait. And and the bait can be dangled in front of any age group. And David and the people who were with him lifted up their voice and wept until they had no more power to weep. So what a sad state. To know Yahweh will provide for all of our needs, yet we fail to pray. This was a sign that David had not taken up his full armor. You know, he was doing things in his own strength, in his own logic. And many of us today have done that in our own strength, in our own logic. And we look around us and we literally can weep over the devastation we see all around us. And David's two wives, Ahinoam and the Jezreelitess, and Abigail, the widow of Nabal the Carmelite, had been taken captive. So had Ziklag not been left with any mighty men for protection? Had David not made provision for their protection? You kind of wonder, you know. And nowadays, look at all the single women households raising children with the only head of the house, the mother, and sometimes it's reverse. Sometimes it's the man of the house that has stood and has taken the responsibility to raise the children. And David was greatly distressed, for the people spoke of stoning him, because the being of all the people was grieved, each for his sons and daughters. But David strengthened himself in Yahweh, his Elohim. Okay, so he's coming to the right mind, that his mind should be the mind of Elohim. So if we too heed the awakening that Yahweh has us in presently, and humble ourselves and turn from our wicked ways and turn to Elohim, he will hear our prayers, and he can turn anything around. He doesn't need huge numbers. He needs people that will humble themselves and have a contrite heart, and he can work mighty miracles through us. And David said to Abiathar, the priest, son of Ahimelech, "Please bring the shoulder garment here to me." So Abiathar brought the shoulder garment to David. So we see David requesting more of the armor of Yahweh, the priestly Melchizedek shoulder garment. So he is awakening. He is realizing, I have not been consulting Elohim. I have not put on the armor of Yahweh. I have not asked for the shoulder garment recently. And here he is, he's putting it on. And David inquired of Yahweh, saying, "Do I pursue this band? Do I overtake them?" And he answered him, "Pursue, for you shall certainly overtake them and certainly rescue." So David pursues the enemy now in the power of Elohim and recovers all. You also, if you want to do some further study, you'll see the shoulder garment or garments referenced in 1 Samuel 23:9, in 1 Samuel 22:18, in 1 Samuel 30, verse 7, and 2 Samuel 6:14. So David pursues the enemy. We read in 1 Samuel 30, verse 9 through 15, how David took 600 men in pursuit of the enemy, the Amalekites. At the valley of Besor, 200 of his men halted due to faintness. Then, as the 400 continue, they find an Egyptian servant of one of the Amalekites that had been wandering for 3 days, after his master had left him behind due to an illness. I'm sure that was a divine appointment. So David fed and strengthened him, and he shared they had attacked many cities, including Ziklag, and burned it with fire. The servant agrees to take David to this marauding band if David would spare and protect his life. The servant then takes David and his men to the enemy's camp. So Ziklag, when they arrive at the enemy's camp, they find the enemy laughing and celebrating. We can even apply this toward this nation, as many families have been ravaged. The enemy is laughing. The enemy is laughing. In 1 Samuel 30, verse 16, it says, "And he brought him down and saw they were spread out over all the land, eating and drinking and dancing because of all the great spoil which they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from the land of Yehudah or Judah." Sound familiar? Because a lot of our land and spoils have been taken from our nation, and others have experienced that in their own nations. We see the confusion and the deceit of having so many people worship Ishtar, calling it Easter. Was originally the celebration of Ishtar, the Assyrian and Babylonian goddess of fertility and sex. Her symbols, like the egg and the bunny, were and still are fertility and sex symbols. Or do you actually think eggs and bunnies had anything to do with the resurrection? After Constantine decided to Christianize the empire, Easter was changed to represent Jesus, but at its roots is all about celebration of fertility and sex. Sorry, there's a mosquito flying around here. And bowing down to idols doesn't just look like this. At this particular country, I'm not sure what it is. They have an idol and they're bowing down and worshiping it. But it also comes like this in many forms. Is this where the women and men of Yahweh are? Is this where the men and the women of Yahweh need to be at this point in history? Is it time not to be a sports fanatic when there's a battle raging for our families, our country, all around, and countries all around the world? Is this a time not to be focused? I don't think so. And many people are leaving the church. Sometimes you have to walk away from what's comfortable to find the truth. And hopefully they find it. Hopefully they don't end up in a worse ditch. And medication, vaccine. Beware. And my background is nursing. Once these things enter your system, they're in your system. Once they enter your child's system, they're in your child's system. And then the politicians that say one thing and do another. And these are some mimes. We told them health care was free. Ha ha ha. And then I told them individual investors really control the market. Great deceptions going on nowadays. Or how about Santa Claus? An anagram for Satan, Lucas, or Lucifer. Blavatsky said the name isn't important, it is the letters. So this is sigil magic. The Secret Doctrine, Volume 2, page 350. Lucifer's true identity as Satan is revealed as an anagram. Blinds, as esoterics call them, include scrambling the letters of a name to hide the true meaning of a word from the uninitiated. Ha ha ha. Freemasonry. Many people get into Masonry because they want to network. Maybe they're in the business world. Don't do it. Don't do it. They worship Satan. At the lower echelons, you may not realize that. At the upper echelons, that's what it's all about. Get out of it. Even Christian artists are posing in the most peculiar ways. You know, are they doing this knowingly or not? That's a sigil magic hand signal right there. And is it a reason why this side of his face is darkened to give you the one eye, all-seeing eye symbology? Oh, and the time that they put Cali of destruction on the Empire State Building. What does that have to do in our nation? Just tell me that. Tell me that. There's a couple of videos I found very informative. They were put out by Without Spot or Blemish Ministry. And I'll leave these links below this video for you to view. Be it homework, if you will. You know, just consider it part of your biblical study and your biblical growth and your biblical understanding of preparation. This series I'm doing is to help us be prepared and not caught off guard. Any policeman, any soldier will tell you, you have to know your weapons inside and out. Do we know our weapons of Yahweh inside and out? Do we? Do we? That requires us being in His Word every day, for hours. Turn off the TVs. Educate, pray, study, be alone with Yahweh. Let Him lead and guide you for what He needs us to do in these last days. So, Ziklag, David retrieves what the enemy has stolen, not by his might, but by Yahweh's. And David smote them from twilight until the evening of the next day, and none of them escaped, except 400 young men who rode on camels and fled. And David rescued all that the Amalekite, the enemy, had taken. David also rescued his 2 wives, and there was none missing to them, whether small or great, whether sons or daughters or spoil or whatever they had taken from them. David recovered all. Besides, David captured all the flocks and herds they had driven before those livestock, and they said, "This is David's spoil." So, David also rescued his 2 wives, the Jezreelites and the Carmelites. So, do these 2 wives represent the 2 houses that will become one stick? Is this what Yahusha has made a way for us to become one stick, one as Israel, one body? I believe so. And didn't Yahusha tell his father that he would lose none that his father had given him? And so what do we read here? And there was none missing to them, whether small or great, whether sons or daughters or spoil or whatever they had taken from them. Yahusha is going to recover all that his father has given to him. Ziklag, the spoils of the rescue battle. Now, keep in mind, we shouldn't settle for just winning the battle, but also for obtaining the spoils. In 1 Samuel 30, verse 21, and David came to the 200 men who were too faint to follow him, who had also been left at the brook Bazar, or Wadi. And they went out to meet David and to meet the people who were with him. And when David came near the people, he greeted them. And all the evil and worthless men of those who went with David answered and said, because they did not go with us, we do not give them any of the spoil that we have rescued, except for every man's wife and children, and let them take them and go. But David said, my brothers, do not do so with what Yahweh has given us, who has protected us and gave into our hand the band that came against us. And who would listen to you in this matter? For as his portion is who goes down to the battle, so is his portion who remains with the baggage. They share alike. And it came to be from that day forward, he appointed it for a law and a right ruling for Israel to this day. And when David came to Ziklag, he sent some of the spoil to the elders of Judah, to his friends, saying, here is a present for you from the spoil of the enemies of Yahweh. But he went further. He sent it to several cities in the last verses of chapter 30 that you can read. So the spoils of our battles that we win today, those are souls. And those souls, those people, they are extremely talented. Each person Yahweh has gifted with his purpose. And once they know who they belong to and who they are full of gifts and resources. And Yahweh wants to bring them into his temple, as living stones to build and complete the temple. So that are the spoils that we too can obtain. And just like David had told the men, doesn't matter if the 200 stayed with the baggage or the 400 went to fight. It was the same concept that Yahusha told about, those being saved at the last hour, like in the parable of the workers all getting the same pay, and no matter what hour they were hired. It's the same concept there that we understand. So, whether we've known Yahweh all of our lives or if we find him later in our life, we share in the same blessings of Yahweh. We receive the promise that of Abraham. And Ziklag has victory. As Yahweh gave David victory at Ziklag after a season of self-direction and slothfulness and the slothful use of his armor, so Yahweh has done the same for us. Yahusha has won the war, but he expects us to possess the promised land by gaining the spoils of battle in the form of winning souls into his kingdom. The elite warriors, as well as those that stay behind with the baggage, benefit from victory to victory. All authority has been given to our king and priest of the Melchizedek order, Yahushua HaMashiach, and he has told us to go forth, make disciples, baptizing them or mikvah them into the Melchizedek order in the name of the Father, Son, and the Ruach HaKodesh, and teach them all that I have commanded to you. And he said, I am with you always. If we don't have his presence, like David experienced when he didn't take Yahweh with him, when he wasn't fully clothed in the armor, he reaped what he sowed, and then he came to his senses, and then he sought Elohim, and he cried out to Elohim. We can do nothing. He is the vine, we are the branches. Without him, we can do nothing. And so all that we can do is work in the power and authority that he has given us. It's not us, it's him. It's him. In Luke 10:23, and I'll close with this, and turning to his taught ones, he said separately, Blessed are the eyes that see what you see. For I say to you that many prophets and kings or sovereigns have wished to see what you see and have not seen it, and to hear what you hear and have not heard it. So anoint our eyes, Yahweh. Anoint our eyes. Anoint our hearing. Awaken us, Yahweh. Just awaken us, Yahweh. We cry out to you. We praise you for all that you have done for us. We thank you that you have given us your belt of truth. And that is the number one item in our armor, to fight the father of lies. You fight lies with his truth. And we are covered in his righteousness, not our righteousness, but his righteousness that covers our most vital of organs. We have shod our feet with the gospel message of peace. So we have put these things on, and then we take up the shield of faith to quench all the fiery darts. We put on that helmet of salvation, that helmet of deliverance that covers our face from harm and damage of what goes out, what goes in. And we take up the sword of the Spirit, the two-edged sword. And we know that no weapon formed against us shall prosper. And we praise him and pray to him and cry out to him. Help us, Yahweh. Help us to know you each day more and more. Help us to learn your ways. Help us to be in your Father's will. Help us to keep the mind of Christ. Help us, Yahweh. Help us to show and display the fruit of the Spirit. Until next time, may Yahweh bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you, and may you search his word and seek his wisdom. Until next time, I look forward to seeing you again. Thank you so much for joining me in this study. Till then, shalom.